3D scene here. Okay, so you can kind of see how that texture from our last lesson got wrapped onto sort of half of this cylinder here. And if we start looking at some of these other pieces, you can see they are also on different cards and cylinders. Now, one of the problems that we've got is that I can't really view all of these at the same time currently. And so now we need to add that other building block that I was talking about at the beginning. Remember, we have our four main ingredients of cards or other types of geometry, and the second one is scenes. So let's go ahead and add a scene node. So I could go into my 3D object or 3D node choices here and choose a scene, or I could just hit tab and type in a scene. And a scene, you can see, is a circular node, so we could put all different types of nodes that plug into it. It doesn't have a set amount of inputs. It's basically just a container that holds all your 3D images so that you can view them together. Okay, so I'm going to grab my viewer and hook it up to the scene, and now I'll be able to see all of those pieces at once. However, you can see that currently this is kind of hard to look at and understand because the cylinders are made at a massive level compared to the cards. So we're going to need to start kind of scaling some things back and down and positioning them in space. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these two cylinders right here and just kind of come down through there. And what we want to do is open both of those up. And I'm going to shift select them, and we're just going to push them back in Z space for now. So you can see I just kind of grabbed that Z handle and pushed them back. Now, if you're not really familiar with 3D, you may not really understand what that Z is that I'm talking about. So Z is going to mean going kind of in this direction here. That's the blue handle. And X is going to be going this direction here, for the other side to side, basically. And then the Y is going to be up and down. So you can see how I can grab that handle, push this up and down. I'll just hit Control Z to undo that. And you can see X is going to pull this the other direction, and then Z again this other direction. Okay, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an understanding of how that's working. Now, I've got my other cylinder here, which is just that first one, and remember, this is way bigger than it needs to be. So if I open up this cylinder over here in my properties bin, I'm going to come over here to the uniform scale and start to really turn that size down. Okay, so you can see how that really helps to make that smaller. Now we've also got this piece right here, which I also want to pull back a little bit. It looks like it didn't quite grab both of those earlier when I was trying to do that. So now you can see how this is kind of starting to shape up. This is that background formation we have on the left, and this is the one we have on the right. And we're already getting a nice little amount of parallax by just having this one very slightly in front of this one. Okay, so let's kind of start playing around with our cards. I'm going to sort of pull the cylinders out of the way for a moment, and we can start to edit the cards themselves. So this card right here is going to be the one we have for our walk path. So we'll want to go ahead and grab that card and kind of pull this over to the side. And I'm just going to start kind of double clicking these pieces, and you can see it looks actually like this may have gotten reversed a little bit. So we actually want to be looking at it from this side here, from this angle. So we may need to go in and kind of adjust a few things. So we want that to be pointing kind of in this other direction, because you can see if I'm on this side of it, it's the reverse. And that can kind of happen if you're trying to, you know, position things differently. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this one. This is going to be our walking path. And we've got this one here that's sort of this other part that's going to be part of this whole scene. Then we've got this little tiny piece right here. And you can see that's kind of this little area that's going to drop down, and that's going to be located sort of in the path. So you can see how whenever I pull that over, it fits perfectly into that hole. But what I want to start doing is grabbing some of these pieces like this one here and rotating them to be more realistic like this image is set up. So this path wouldn't be on a card facing up and down, it would be rotated. So if I have this card selected, this is for the walking path, and I hold Control, I can come in here and start to rotate that on that x-axis. I'm just grabbing that red circle, and you can see over on the right side in my card when I'm rotating this, I can rotate that to an even -90 degrees. And that's going to basically place that perfectly flat in space. And then what I would want to do is kind of start pushing this down a little bit and getting that positioned over here. Now I may need to make it a little bit bigger or something like that, but it's a good start. So you can kind of see where this is starting to go now. Okay, so I've got this one here, this card, and I kind of want to rotate this on the y-axis, so that's on the green, to sort of get it to start having that kind of tilted look to it. Same thing on this card right here. We'll just want to, on the y-axis, kind of rotate that. You may need to get closer in to make sure that you're doing it on the y. And you can see I'm kind of allowing a little bit of space in between those so that I can start to get that parallax. So you can kind of see what that looks like. And now it's also becoming really clear that this object back here needs to have this bit of railing painted out, or it almost looks just like a mirror image. And then we've got, remember this card that we kind of laid down flat, so I can kind of start to pull that in place. And this one, this card needs some help. So it's, you know, whenever it's pushed down like this, it really appears sort of squished. So in the y-axis of the scale, we can come in here and put that at like a 3. And oh, that is not the card we wanted to do that to. We want to do it to our walk path card, so that's going to be card 2. Okay, so we'll put a 3 for the y there, and you can see now it kind of stretches that out a little bit, and then we can begin to match that up a little bit easier over here on the side. Maybe push it down just a little bit. And then this card, we might want to rotate a little bit like this, kind of start to get that tilt there. So you can kind of see now how those are lining up. And if you're looking at that from this angle here, now we're getting this really interesting kind of stepped thing happening where we've got, you know, this piece sort of showing and those are intersecting each other. But we get this nice little parallax. So we're really starting to build a scene out of those two. Now, one of the issues I have with this is that this is a massive card compared to this tiny little piece. So what we can do is we can change that. We can fix that a little bit. Let's come back in the next lesson and continue to position these pieces in space together, and also work on getting the ratio of the size of this card to the size of the pixels on the card to match up just a little bit better. So stick around.